Hello, this is Black Formation, where you don't need to be black to get information or information. The 6888th All-Black Women Battalion, World War II. In February 1945, warehouses in Birmingham, England, were filled with millions of pieces of mail intended for members of the U.S. military, U.S. government personnel, and Red Cross. Workers serving in the European theater airplane hangars held undelivered Christmas packages, and a constant stream of incoming mail added to the already massive backlog of letters and packages. Oftentimes, the mail was addressed simply to Junior U.S. Army or Buster U.S. Army. As Allied forces drove across Europe, ever-changing locations hampered mail delivery to service members. With 7 million Americans in the European theater, many shared common names. 7,500 were named Robert Smith. Service members noticed that they weren't getting mail from home, and Army officials reported that the lack of reliable mail delivery was hurting morale. One general predicted that the backlog in Birmingham would take 6 months to process. The Women's Army Corps, WAC, of the U.S. Army was created by a law signed by President Franklin D. Roosevelt on July 1, 1943. The WAC was converted from the Women's Army Auxiliary Corps, which had been created in 1942 but did not have official military status. New WAC recruits underwent 4 to 6 weeks of basic training, which included a physical training program, often followed by 4 to 12 weeks of specialist training. First Lady Eleanor Roosevelt and civil rights leader Dr. Mary McLeod Bethune successfully advocated for the admittance of black women as enlisted personnel and officers in the WAC, although in the rest of the Army, segregation prevailed. After several units of white women were sent to serve in the European theater, black organizations pressed the War Department to extend the opportunity to serve overseas to black WACs. In November 1944, the War Department allowed this. Despite slow recruitment of volunteers, a battalion of 817, later 824 enlisted personnel and 31 officers, all black women drawn from the WAC, the Army Service Forces in the Army Air Forces, was created and eventually designated as the 6888th Central Postal Directory Battalion, nicknamed 6888. The 6888 included a headquarters company for administrative and service support companies A, B, C, and D, each commanded by a captain or first lieutenant. Major, later Lieutenant Colonel, Charity Edna Adams, who took the surname upon her marriage in 1949, was selected to command the battalion. The battalion was trained for their overseas mission at a fort in Georgia. They crawled under logs, wearing gas masks, and jumped over trenches, according to a Washington Post article, February 26, 2009. The women learned to identify enemy aircraft, ships, and weapons, to climb ropes, to board and evacuate ships, and to do long marches with rucksacks. In 1945, the women traveled by train to Camp Shanks, New York, their takeoff point. On February 3, 1945, the first contingent of the battalion sailed for Britain. Their ship, the Ile de France, survived close encounters with Nazi U-boats and arrived in Glasgow, Scotland on the 14th of February, where a German V-1 rocket exploded near the dock, causing the women to run for cover. They traveled by train to Birmingham, England. Within a few days of their arrival, they held a military parade for Lieutenant General C.H. Lee, which was watched by a number of curious local citizens. A second contingent arrived in Birmingham from Scotland 50 days later. In Birmingham, the women of the 6888 confronted warehouses stacked to the ceiling with letters and packages. These buildings were unheated and dimly lit, the windows blacked out to prevent light spilling out during nighttime air raids. Rats sought out packages of spoiled cakes and cookies. As it was a cold winter, the women wore long johns and extra layers of clothing under their coats while working in these warehouses. The unit members were organized into 3 separate 8-hour shifts, so work continued around the clock, 7 days a week. They tracked individual service members by maintaining about 7 million information cards, including serial numbers, to distinguish different individuals with the same name. While in a French city spelled Rouen, the 6888 experienced a tragedy. On July 8, 1945, PFC Mary J. Barlow and PFC Mary H. Bankston were killed in a Jeep accident, and Sergeant Dolores M. Brown died on July 13th from injuries resulting from the accident. Since the War Department did not provide funds for funerals, the women of the 6888 pooled their resources to honor their deceased members. First Lieutenant Dorothy Scott found 3 unit members who had experience with mortuary work to take care of the bodies, and unit members paid for caskets. Memorial services were organized and held for the deceased, and Major Adams wrote to inform their families in the United States of their fate. Sergeant Brown, PFC Barlow, and PFC Bankston were buried with honors in the Normandy American Cemetery. After efficiently clearing the mail in the French city, the 6888 moved to Paris in October 1945. Here, the officers were quartered in the hotel spelled ETATS-UNIS, and the enlisted women were quartered in the Hotel Bois Lafayette. They enjoyed a higher standard of living in any of the cities they had previously been, with maid service and chef-cooked meals. However, with the end of World War II, the strength of the 6888 Central Postal Directory Battalion was reduced by nearly 300 personnel, with over 200 more women eligible for discharge in January 1946. In February 1946, the remainder of the unit returned to the United States and was disbanded at Fort Dix, New Jersey, without further ceremony. There were no parades, no public appreciation, and no official recognition of their accomplishments, although Charity Adams was promoted to Lieutenant Colonel upon her return to the U.S. The 6888 will be remembered by Black Formation. If you made it this far in the video, please check in the description below how you can support through Patreon. Also, if you could leave a like, subscribe, and a comment to help with the algorithm, it helps us grow. Thank you very much and have a good day.